it's an awesome, awesome day to have a wonderful conversation with somebody that I'm super excited to talk with and share with you guys. She's a guest on this week's episode on the Soulish podcast, and I'm just super, super excited to have her on. So she's coming on right now. Let's see. Yes. Super for you guys to meet Sarah and chat more, ask any questions. Yay! Hi,
Hey, hey.
Sarah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, totally. You sound good.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. It kind of looks similar for you and me, because we have overcast skies too. Is it freezing where you are?
So, I'm in Houston I live in Houston, not right now. We we had a giant well, not really Houston, but in Texas in general, we had a big snow and cold front come through.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's like 40 degrees maybe out here right
oh,
now.
that's cold for Houston, yeah.
It is. And so this is the first time I've busted out my jacket and all of that. So, yeah, so how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good for a Monday morning. You know how it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's early for you too, so thanks for getting up.
Of course. I tried to get up at 6 and that did not happen.
I
I'm
feel
trying to
that.
do yoga.
I gotcha. Oh wait, I can see people joining now. Hannah. Hey Hannah, that's my friend from
Yeah.
high school.
Oh, hi Hannah. Nice to meet you. Um, I wanted to ask you just like a couple different questions. We have a new moon coming up tomorrow, right? In Capricorn.
Yes. So new moons, great times for manifesting. And
Ooh.
it's coincides with the new year. So I I know people like to get creative in their moon rituals, and I'll be honest, I go back and forth on like even with myself on uh you know making a big to do about it, because I think sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, like I have to have the perfect new moon ritual, and I I don't think that it always has to be the case. Like it could be something super simple, like just like right now, what I'm doing, going for a walk
Mhm.
and setting, intention and new goals for the new year, or at least for this new cycle. Um, but it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have your candles and cauldron and things like that. Things
Yeah.
like that. I mean, you can, but uh, it's I like to keep it simple, and I typically do a lot of my meditating, honestly, while walking, um,
Hmm.
and thinking through my next month, whatever the cycle it is that I'm going through, and journaling is a good option too. I've just recently gotten into journaling, so yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do, um, but with a new moon, it's setting the stage for another new cycle in general, just to keep it simple. Um, so yeah,
I was gonna
it's a good
ask
time.
you, oh, sorry. I was gonna
You go
ask
ahead.
you, like energetically, since it's in Capricorn, what does that necessarily mean? Because I know Capricorn usually signifies like hard work, like being diligent, disciplined.
Yeah. So Capricorn in general is going to be kind of that archetype of structure, order. He's really ambitious. I think I like to describe them in terms of what their symbol actually is. So it's the mountain goat, it's the billy goat, and I think of it like climbing up that mountain, and you want to get to the top, and they're going to get to the top, um, but they're studious, and it's not going to be an easy journey, um, and they're gonna do the work to get there, and they're going to do that by being structured and really diligent. So just I find it easier to correlate the zodiac signs in astrology with just the basic symbolism, just keep it easy. Um,
Yeah.
but it's a good time, just because it is the new year. We're entering 2021. So I know people typically do their what is it? The New Year's goals.
Yes.
Typically around the first, or maybe they do it on New Year's Eve. But this is a good time too. It's going to be kind of that same energy of like, what goals do I want to accomplish in this year? What are the structures that I need to put in place to achieve those things? So using that energy and being mindful of that energy.
Very cool. So it's kind of like, I mean, we're like almost halfway through the month, so it's kind of like a good moment to bring back and say like, hey, I've been like, going at it with my goals, if you have, and what do I maybe need to adjust, and having that energy kind of back you in a way and push you forward up that mountain.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
really good.
And 2020 has been a heck of a mountain. So it's just kind of checking back in with that energy. And I know for me, like, I like to use these moons as kind of a restatement of what I'm
Hmm.
working on, or whatever I'm going through currently. Just kind of take a step back, be more aware and
Hmm.
more conscious of it.
That's good.
Sorry
That's
too,
really
by the
good.
way. I didn't think this through of taking a walk in the cold.
Oh,
I'm all
your
sniffly
your
now.
poor face. Like, yeah, I've been dry, like on top of my cheeks because I wear a mask whenever I go out. And so
Mm,
like the tops of my cheeks are like super dry. So I've been like extra moisturizer and like face oils like tapping on my face just to keep them
yeah.
moisturized. So yeah, I can under relate and understand because it's 40 degrees outside for us too, and that's pretty cold for
Mm,
California. We don't normally get that
jeez,
cold.
that is
So you're
cold.
all good. I love it. I love that you're walking. Hey, you're making it happen. Having a good
I
little break.
I was gonna say too. I saw on your story earlier. Uh, you said something about that I really appreciated that you noticed. It was something about how you used to view astrology as like really doom and gloom,
Hmm.
and I really appreciate that you took notice that I don't approach it in that way.
Nope.
Um, that's interesting. I'll tell a little story actually about why I don't approach it that way. So, uh, I think I've mentioned on the podcast how I've studied astrology off and on since,
Hmm.
I mean, I guess I was like 10 or 11, but I've gone through varying degrees of it. I have, if anybody knows human design, my like conscious sun, which is like my purpose and what I do in life, how I approach life. It's like the gate of starting things. So I can be a little all over
Love
the
it.
place, where I will start things and get super immersed, and then maybe I'll back off, and then I'll come again
Hmm.
and I'll start again.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
it's a gift, but it can be a shadow too. But anyways, um, I there were different periods in my life where I was super into astrology, and then I backed off. And one of the periods where I did back off a little bit was I had a reading when I was, I guess 22, 23, with a Vedic astrologer.
Mm.
And so there's Western astrology, which is what I practice, which is, I have a little bit of another style too, but I won't get into that. But there's Vedic, which is what they
Isn't
practice
that
in
like,
India.
yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that like Indian, like Ayurveda, Vedic? Yeah, I've heard of
Exactly.
Vedic astrologers. I
Exactly.
wasn't
So
sure of the difference.
it's a very different approach. It's somewhat backwards actually. So like your
Okay.
signs are actually backwards. So I'm a Cancer sun. I think you're a Cancer too, right?
Yeah, Cancer Sun, Aries Moon, Pisces Rising. You
Yeah.
taught me that.
So you go backwards one
Oh wow.
sign in Vedic astrology. So technically I would be a Gemini, and I guess you would too. But
Oh wow.
anyways, it's super different.
That's
Anyways,
interesting.
this astrologer, she she's kind of famous actually. And I really like her still to this day, but her approach, whoops, I'm sorry, her approach to astrology was very I wouldn't say doom and gloom, but she was very definitive in her predictions. And I take predictions with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is my approach. I'll just kind of share a little bit about my style with that. To me, the planets that we're looking at, how they're impressing their energy upon you day to day, it's just energy at the end of the day, right? Like,
Right.
and there can be a higher vibration of that energy or a lower vibration of that energy. And so you could have honestly a million different outcomes with the same energy or the same theme of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't personally like the type of astrologer that kind of definitively says that it's only going to be one thing or one way. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I just don't believe that that's the case. Yeah, it could be, and there might be a lot of really good indicators that it will be that way. But, and I've said this, I think I said this to you on the podcast, that we have free will. We have our own subconscious programming, the societal programming,
Mm-hmm.
and again, like with the energy, it can express itself in a million different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So that day that I had my reading with her, I I just, I don't know, something triggered me that day. Now what's funny is what she did tell me turned out to be true. Um, she, she did tell me that I was going to, she told me I was going to break up with my college boyfriend.
Oh
So
my
that
gosh.
was probably part of what, what triggered me.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be triggering.
and then she also told me that, um, I was going to be extremely spiritual and I was going to work in spirituality in some capacity. She even said, she was like, I wouldn't be surprised if you do astrology. And at that point in my life, that was like the furthest from my radar. And
Oh
it pissed
wow.
me, it kind of pissed me off a little bit. Cause I was like, how dare you say that? Like, and so I did, granted, everything she said is coming true, but I, I don't like to work in that space. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that I actually think there's almost like an ethical dilemma a little bit with
Mm-hmm.
that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because so now knowing how to read my own chart, there are things in my chart that could express themselves in a not so beautiful way. Um, but I'm mindful of them, and I don't think it's good for anybody, whether that's the person receiving the reading or just an everyday person, or for the astrologer to approach it in that mindset because of all those other variables that I listed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I appreciated that you noticed that because that is a really big thing for me. Um, I had a woman reach out to me actually. She's from Singapore and she was looking to book a reading and she was terrified of it. She was like, I've been on the fence of doing this for a while. She's like, because I had a reading with someone that practiced Chinese astrology, and it was kind of like what you said. She was like, they
Mm-hmm.
told me that I'm doomed to have a terrible life, and I'm never going to have money, and I'm just going to have a really hard life. And I just was like, that is so sad and terrible
Yeah,
for
that's not
you
good.
to imprint that thought in someone's head. Um, so yeah, I kind of I disagree with that. And I
Mm-hmm.
choose to view it in the highest possible expression. That's not to say that there's not going to be challenges in life, right? We
Right.
all have
No.
challenges. But
Now, I want anyone who's on here, I want you guys to ask your questions. Any any astrology questions that you have about like the year or anything, definitely ask your questions, and I'll make sure to get those to Sarah so that she can answer them here for you guys. I had another question too, and I think before getting into that, I think for me it came from my Christian upbringing, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I I feel like, at least for my experience with Christianity, it demonized a lot of this. But it's funny because when I went to ministry school, Christian ministry school, to become a pastor, um, it actually hit me like many things when I read through the Bible, I think at least 3 to 5 times, somewhere in there, um, over a 3 year period. And it hit me how much, when I went back to original text like reincarnation, which was super demonized for me growing up, astrology, like Star of Bethlehem with Jesus, like the three wise men, who were they? They were astrologers, and they came across lands because they saw the stars aligning in a certain way, and they knew it was
Yeah.
super significant, so they went to the place where that star was going to be. and
Mm-hmm.
and they had seen prophecies as well, and they took that into consideration. But I just started realizing, like, these are things that have been told and taught to me that are like super evil, like you'll be
Mm-hmm.
cursed if you like get into it. And yet,
Yeah.
but this is written in the Bible. This was something that they did. The sky was like their TV back in the day. They watched the stars like we watch TV and Netflix and Hulu.
Yeah.
So I just really appreciated your approach, because before meeting you, I didn't quite know, like, I knew some of like your content and stuff, but I was so impressed and so relieved, in my experience with you, of talking a little bit about me too, um, during the podcast and even in between. And I learned so much about myself, and also about what astrology says and what it brings to us in our life. It actually adds information, it adds comfort, it gives us a heads up on energies that are happening. It's not always doom and gloom. It's our choice, and we
Yeah.
have a choice with that energy that is presented to us, as a global consciousness, individually. And so I thought that was really cool. That taught me a lot. So yeah, I wanted to highlight that, because I think probably anyone who follows me that is religious in any way, that maybe has had the same experience, that they should know, like, this is actually really cool. It's really
Yeah.
fascinating. I'm learning a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's interesting, and I don't share a lot about this yet. I'm still working through kind of my own journey with fears of speaking my thoughts, or my approach to my belief system, um, because I'm like you as well. I grew up in Texas, in West Texas, and just a very conservative town. My mom and my stepdad are actually about to go to uh, theology school to get their doctorates in theology. So it's a very similar background
Mm-hmm.
as well. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is like I still view myself as a Christian, which I know that there are denominations of Christianity that would disagree with that, and that's okay. I'm at the point now where I'm okay if that's technically like I'm technically, not in line with a certain belief system, but my belief system is totally a mixture of a lot of different belief systems, and that's okay. And I think I know you and I talked about this a little bit, but at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, I think that um, we're all talking about the same thing here. We're all talking about God, right? And
Yeah.
so um, I view astrology too. Like, I think that the stars, the planets, the universe are um, these are God's creation.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can derive patterns from God's creation and how they impact us or apply to us on a day-to-day basis, then to me, I don't see what's wrong with this. Now, however, this is where um, Christianity would contradict, and I am in agreement with them, is that when you begin to look to the stars ahead of your God, I don't believe in that either. if we're just laying that out there. I believe at the end of the day, we can use astrology as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
I use it as a tool to get to know myself, um, dig into shadows, dig into pieces of me that you're not consciously aware of.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you have to trust yourself. You have
Mm-hmm.
to trust the messages that you receive from whomever is your source, your higher power.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, I mean, that's that's the end all, regardless. But it's, to me, I just I use it as a tool.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
And
I
I think
see. Oh yeah, they're saying absolutely
because
we
we
need
can
to
do
direct it
anything
to the
through
Lord.
him. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I like
Yeah.
that. Thank you for sharing. I think too that, like just to not to be all Bible thumpery, but I think, it's funny because like in the Old Testament, the one thing when the Jews were being led from Egypt, from captivity, and Moses was leading them, right? A couple things happened where they started to worship like a golden calf, that they made
Mm-hmm.
from a bunch of gold, and Moses had to redirect them along with God. And I think that part of that comes from we want to worship like the stars or worship astrology, and we're missing the point that actually this is something even bigger than the stars. This is the universe. This is source. This is God, who created that. And we don't need to worship or put our faith or trust or hope on something that's been created. We need to put our faith, hope, and trust in the one that's been creating it, right? And I think giving honor um, and preference to the universe source God as being the director of all things is the way to go with that. And I agree with you on that I don't want to get obsessed with the stars and the planets. I want to get obsessed with the one who created it, and I want to know my purpose and myself and the world, and what we're here to do, and how to serve the world best. That's my goal in learning human design, astrology. It could be multiple things, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of things out there that we can get focused on and obsessed with, but the overall purpose is to be be supported in our journey and be supported in the discovery process of who we are. That's like a lifelong thing of discovery, right? Of discovering
Yep.
ourselves, our gifts, what our purpose is, what we like, even what we love to do. And that's been a process for me, and I know it's been a process for you. So I wanted to talk about two more things before we sign off. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah. I had to turn around. I'm like, I've gone through the neighborhood twice. If I lose you, I'm gonna come back on. My earbuds are coming off.
All
But
good,
yeah,
all good. And I
which
just want to
hopefully
do
I
a
can.
shout out to Yasmin because she's thebomb.com and she's joined. And then my brother also joined. So I just want to say a shout out to them. Um, so during the new moon, I noticed too, in my little digging that I did, that there's actually a really cool square that's happening with, isn't it Jupiter? Is it Saturn? It's Uranus, Jupiter to Mars. It's a square that's
Okay,
happening that's pretty significant.
there. That's interesting that you brought that up, because I was actually looking at that this morning. I haven't looked into that square specifically for the collective, but I was
Yeah.
looking at it in reference to Inauguration Day, and
Mm.
the so you can actually look at like a presidency, because we know the time that he'll be inaugurated, right? So
That's
I was
interesting.
I was looking at that last night, because I was like, what is, like, I feel like we need to see what's happening on the 20th, given everything that's happened this last week. And um, I was looking, like, if I can remember what I saw. It was on the Biden chart. Um, oh,
Interesting.
it was it was his moon, I believe. I don't have my note in front of me, but
All good.
let me back up, actually, because I'll tell you why this is significant. So on, when was it? The 6th, I guess, last week,
Hmm.
when everything went down at the
Yep.
White House. Um, what was really interesting about that day was that Mars, who's the, if we think about Mars as the archetypal warrior, warrior energy, aggression, could be motivation and willpower, but very symbolic of war and aggression.
Yeah.
It is moving into Taurus, which is like a more very grounded energy, but before it gets to Taurus, it has to sit at 29 degrees of Aries. And 29 degrees in astrology is what they call a critical degree. And what was interesting about that day was it was 29 degrees, so a critical degree in astrology of Mars, the planet of war and aggression, sitting in the house, Aries, of war and aggression. This is its home house. So it literally was sitting there at the exact moment that everything happened. So that was a really interesting coincidence. And then what I mentioned before with the moon on the Biden presidential chart, his is moving at 29 degrees of Aries as well. And on this day, on January 20th. So, and the moon, it's going to be symbolic of, you know, emotions and kind of that inner world for you. And so it doesn't surprise me that this is an energy that his presidency is starting at, is very
that's
you know,
interesting.
internally.
Could that mean something, you know, bad, like people protesting his inauguration? I've heard he's going to go virtual because of a lot of threats and things like that. So do you feel like maybe there's going to be another, hopefully peaceful protest? Hopefully it's not going to get violent at the Capitol or White House.
I mean, I think without the astrology involved, I think that that's most likely going to happen, unfortunately. But you know, it's coinciding with all of these different planetary movements. One of the ones we talked about on the podcast was the America's Pluto return. That is also very coincidental, but not at all, with what is going on. So the Pluto return, just to give a little background, this occurs every 248 some odd years. Pluto is the slowest moving planet, so it takes about 248 years for it to make a full revolution. And so if we do the math, like 1776 plus 248, I think, what is that, 2024? My brain's not working this morning.
That's okay.
So we're in the thick of our Pluto return, and Pluto is going to be super symbolic of it can be destruction, it's death and rebirth, but on the other side of that is a new beginning too. So
that's cool.
It's interesting how this is all lining up.
And what about the Saturn and is it Saturn and Mars? I feel like I'm getting this wrong. Saturn and Uranus, right? Are square throughout the year. Is there any significance with that?
Yes.
Like energetically?
Yeah. So this is going to go hand in hand with the themes that we are currently seeing as we enter this new year. So Saturn, and I kind of, for people listening right now, I kind of like to teach what the symbolism is while
she's awesome.
Just because
I'm teaching.
I'm such a Virgo rising, I have to know like intellectually what I'm, conceptualizing. But
love it.
So Saturn is going to be that planet of it's constriction, right? It's structure, it's order. They say it's like a grandfather energy where it was very orderly. It's we have to have a structure in place. It's very methodical, very practical. And then Uranus is that rebellious kid that's like, I'm going to just kick the can and shake things up. And it's when you have those two energies involved, the way that they are going to be throughout the year, it's a couple things there. It's pretty paradoxical. So, you have this constricting energy. You also have Jupiter in the play there too, which I talk about on the podcast, but Jupiter's super expansive. It wants to grow, wants to expand. Saturn wants to constrict. It wants control. And then you got Uranus over here that's like, hey, let me just like toss this into the mix and let's watch it unfold. And Uranus is in Taurus, which is another paradoxical energy because that's very grounded, stable energy. Mm-hmm. So you have this contrast in the energetics throughout 2021. It's like a push and pull. Like, I want to control. No, I want to change. I want to expand. No, we're going to put our finger down. No, like I want to grow and progress. So I think we see that in the news, Right. So it's not surprising. But yeah, that's going to be the main tense, I'd say the main tense aspects going on throughout the year. There is a reprieve in the summer. I want to say it's mid-May through July. So Jupiter, this is a nice time, guys. Jupiter is going to dip into Pisces. So Jupiter, like I said, it's an abundant energy. It wants to grow and expand. It's all about abundance. But when it's sitting in Pisces, that's one of its home signs. So it feels really good. So it's going to be a little bit of a reprieve in the summer, and it's almost a preview to the energy for the next year, because Jupiter will start sitting in Pisces next year. So it's a good little preview there too. So if anybody's got plans, summer might be May, June, July. Yeah. Summer might be a good time.
Sarah, thank you so much for coming on for this time. I want to be respectful of your time because I know you got to get back to things, but for anybody listening and anyone who watches this even after the fact, Sarah, as you can see, has an amazing heart. She's like a fantastic, wonderful human being, and she's super gifted at astrology, human design. She's an expert, and her prices, like I mentioned before, are extremely affordable compared to what you would normally get charged for a full astrology birth natal chart reading, as well as human design on top of that. You would pay thousands for that normally, and her prices are extremely affordable, but also you're getting it from like we mentioned before, a good person and somebody who's going to encourage you, inspire you, and uplift you, and give you a really good outline of the energy around your life and maybe even around this year, which is really going to set you up for pursuing your purpose, pursuing your dreams, pursuing your goals. So I highly, highly, highly recommend her. She's just a wonderful human being, and you're just gonna love your time with her. But she's just really, really good at what she does. But her approach is so different. And anybody who is coming to her with maybe a little bit nerves or anything like that, unsure of what the outcome is going to be, just rest easy that she is going to hold your hand through the whole process. She's going to teach you everything. You're not going to be left with any questions because she's super, super thorough. So I just want to give you guys that little tip so that you can go check her out. I'll have a link to her page as well in my bio here on the I Am Soulish, so that you can just quickly link to her stuff, her readings, and look at, she has a huge list of all different types of readings that you can get. All within like a really affordable price budget if you have that for the month or the year. So I would do it as a birthday gift, a Christmas gift. I would gift readings with her. I would do all sorts of stuff. So book and get her quick, because she's gonna I have a very good feeling she's gonna be a hot commodity.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Very, very soon. So definitely book out as far as you can in advance, because she's going to have a packed little calendar of readings to do. So
thank you,
Sarah. Yes,
I was going to say too, I finished up, well, I'm not technically done with it yet, but I'm finishing up my level 2 in human design, and I just have to share this because it was so cool. I have figured out how to look at your energetic branding, which is super cool. And I'm just now you'll see that as an offer soon, but it's super cool, especially if you have an online business. So just as a heads up, I'm super excited to introduce that one too.
Oh, that's so cool. I can't wait. I'm definitely gonna book that one.
Thank you,
Thank
Whitney.
you. Yes, thank you so much. And thank you everybody who's joined. We loved it. And if you have any questions, definitely either DM her, DM me. I'll get you the answer. She'll definitely get you the answer. But thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to have a good year. This is going to be a good year.
Yeah, we're going to focus on that high vibe.
High vibes all the way.
There's only way to. Thanks, Whitney.
Thank you. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.